We're going to rank the top 12 wide receivers in Dynasty Fantasy Football at this moment. Guys like Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and we're going to see where he falls as he kind of enters our top 12 before the Combine. So this is a little, well, actually after the Combine because we're recording this the day of the Combine. But anyways, we're going to get that done. First, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got Dynasty content coming out all the time, every single week. So make sure you subscribe for the latest videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It's the easiest way to support us. And make sure you head over to our locals page where all of our exclusive content is, our rankings, ADP data, the full rankings of the wide receivers that we're going to be doing today. All that can be found over there. And let's get into our top 12 Dynasty wide receivers. So we did, I think we did the tier rankings of this not too long ago, right? I mean, when we did... because we got a bunch of crap for where we had Ja'Marr Chase.
Yep.
But this will be a lot more straightforward because, you know, while we have these guys in tiers, we're just going to rank the top 12. And we will go ahead and preface by saying that you're probably not going to agree with this, as always. And we don't call ourselves experts, and we don't think this is the bottom line to, you know, what the rankings should be. So if you're going to trash us, do it respectfully, because
you did ask for the rankings.
Because yeah, exactly. So I think there's no question at one is Justin Jefferson. So Nathan, talk a little bit about why Justin Jefferson is one of the most special wide receivers we've ever had the chance to watch in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, his target domination in that offense is ridiculous. He can get he can score 0 touchdowns and still score 35 points a game because he's Justin Jefferson. He gets 10-plus targets a game, and he turns that into 150 yards. Kirk Cousins, while you can say whatever you want about him as an NFL player and what you think about him as a teammate and his ability to lead a team deep into the postseason, into a Super Bowl, whatever, you can think whatever you want to think about that. He is very underrated in fantasy. And he is absolutely a great QB to support Justin Jefferson's production down the road for however long he's there. There's not really any other competition there. Adam Thielen kind of took a little bit away from Justin Jefferson his first couple seasons, and then you just saw that concern completely fall off the face of the earth this past season in 2022. Almost 22 points a game this year, what J. Jeff did, which was, you know, compared to Ja'Marr Chase, who had 19. I think Justin Jefferson is in a tier of his own because of his target domination, because there is no... there's no T. Higgins in that offense to take away really anything at all. So even if they draft a receiver this year, the Vikings, I don't think I'll really change my opinion on that. I think Justin Jefferson is one of a kind.
And so with Ja'Marr Chase here, when we initially did like the tier rankings videos, we had Ja'Marr Chase and CeeDee Lamb in the same tier, and somebody commented and said, you know, I don't think anybody's ever taking CeeDee Lamb over Ja'Marr Chase, so I don't think they could be in the same tier. And I actually agree with that.
That's fair.
So I think if Justin Jefferson's in his own tier, I think Ja'Marr Chase is too. Like I think, and it's not like there's
I would agree with
severe drop off because CeeDee Lamb's going at the turn right now. But with Ja'Marr Chase, obviously he's just 23 years old. He's still averaging 19 points per game in a year that was honestly like it wasn't a down year, obviously, because he's elite and he can produce at any time, but I mean, he didn't play a full season. He still, I mean, he was
still wide receiver 1. Yeah, that's insane.
He still was a wide receiver. I mean, the production, you know, fighting through those circumstances obviously highlights how good of a player Ja'Marr Chase is. Obviously, Ja'Marr, the difference between him and Justin Jefferson, like Nathan was saying, is that Ja'Marr Chase is going to be more big play dependent. Now, with that being said, Ja'Marr Chase is going to have big plays no matter what. So you don't really have to worry about that. The difference is Justin Jefferson's getting a ton of his points from a ton of receptions. Ja'Marr Chase is going to make his living off of big plays on touchdowns. That being said, you cannot argue with 19 points per game. He's tied to Joe Burrow, and that is probably the best argument for having him ranked as high as you want to, is that he has an elite quarterback. And when you're looking at, you know, the top 5, 6 wide receivers here, Joe Burrow is far and away the best quarterback that's supporting one of these receivers. So tied to Joe Burrow, he's going to be in Cincinnati long term. That's an offense and a team that is contending for Super Bowls every year. You love the situation. You love his skill set. You love his quarterback. There's not any reason to be scared about taking Ja'Marr Chase in the first round of startup drafts, and we've seen it all the time now. Simon, you've got CeeDee Lamb at number 3.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say one thing on Ja'Marr Chase. He actually had 11.2 targets per game this last year. And then he had a drop in yards per reception from 18 to 12, but it just shows his ability to be used however they need in that offense. So
That's
he
very
can
promising.
give you, let's say he evens that out and has 9 targets a game for 15 yards per reception. He's right there with Justin Jefferson. I don't think you can really say otherwise. CeeDee Lamb, 22 years old. Maybe is he 23 yet?
He's almost 24.
Oh man. Oh, I was way off.
Sell.
No, he's still
He's
still tied to a quarterback with long-term contract. Obviously, they love to use him in that offense. He had a 29% target share last year, I believe.
That's good.
28.7, 156 targets on the year. So, I mean, when you have the volume and when you're efficient like he is, I think he's right around Jamar Chase, 12.7 yards per reception this last year. So he's doing a lot with his catches. He's top 10 in yards per route run. Really just efficient receiver. There's no worries with CeeDee Lamb. I think he's as good as it gets without being that top tier.
Yeah, I think with as much as the Cowboys run the ball and how much they will continue to run the ball, even with the absence of Kellen Moore, that sort of limits CeeDee's ceiling, which is why he's definitely, without question, a tier below Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. That's why he's going even a half round after those top 2 guys, and that's So.
And that's not us just completely changing our tune, like in flip flopping. We had some good comments on that, and again, we're not always going to say that we're right about everything. So we realized that that was something that we probably needed to adjust, and I think that's analytically the smartest move. But you've got AJ Brown, a guy that now, I mean, half of us in our rankings have AJ Brown above CeeDee Lamb. So it's essentially these 2 guys are even for us. And talk about why that is with AJ Brown.
Yeah, I have no problem with AJ Brown over CeeDee Lamb. One of the big reasons is going to be the contract. He is, again, got that 4-year, $100 million deal last year. We shot our shot last year, and we said that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith would help each other in terms of production, and that Jalen Hurts, if he had any passing limitations, it wouldn't really matter because they both just would command so many targets. We ended up being very, very right on both of them. A.J. Brown had 146 targets. That was number 8 in the league. His target share
per game.
Yeah, his target share was 29%. Again, top 10 in the league. So this guy, deep targets too. His big playability was huge. He had 28 deep targets, air yards, 4th in the league, 1,700, almost 1,800 air yards, and again 1,500 receiving yards. So with him, he's another guy that I don't think is necessarily dependent on touchdowns. He definitely has more big play ability, and I would say that he's almost utilized as a deep threat more than CeeDee Lamb is, which is good sometimes, and sometimes it's not because he can lay some eggs. That's definitely the case I could see against A.J. Brown over CeeDee Lamb, is that I would expect CeeDee to be a lot more consistent on a game-to-game basis than A.J. Brown is. The problem is A.J. Brown is probably going to give you 40-point games sometimes. I don't really see CeeDee doing that very often. But again, I mean, you can't deny what A.J. Brown has done. And I think he's kind of put the injury questions to bed, having a very consistent, very solid season with no injury questions whatsoever. I think him being not the only threat in that offense really helps him overall, too, when it comes to his wear and tear. So really like A.J. Brown here.
Yeah, I just want to point out, outside of Dynasty, A.J. Brown is also just a top 5 wide receiver in the league. He was second in yards per team pass attempt out of all wide receivers, and also second in yards per route run. I think he's just an insane asset.
Yeah, I think as a wide receiver, a true wide receiver in the NFL, I think he is the 3rd best wide receiver.
I absolutely don't blame you for that. I'm very high on A.J. Brown. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Garrett Wilson. So Garrett Wilson, a guy that I was extremely high on last offseason before the draft, and these guys were as well. And now, after we put our money where our mouth was, Garrett Wilson is a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. When you're looking at what he did in his freshman year with the Jets, he had 147 targets. So that's good for 6th in the league. I mean, talk about commanding targets. I know there was like nobody else there, but everybody wanted to hype up Elijah Moore, and that didn't exactly work out. This is interesting. He was 11th in air yards, which for a rookie is very good, but in unrealized air yards, he was number 6, meaning that of all the targets, the targets he got, like he wasn't hauling a lot of those actually in. And the reason for that was because the quarterback play was less than great in New York. So basically what that tells us about Garrett Wilson is as good as he already was his first year in the NFL, he has a lot of room to improve, and that's scary. When you're looking at the guy's speed and his size and his skill set, and then you add on the fact that he has the production to prove it right out the bat in the NFL with a terrible team in a terrible situation with room to improve, Garrett Wilson could get as high as 3 on this list in this next coming season, and I won't be surprised. I mean, you're telling me he's going to come out here and produce as much as A.J. Brown. I'm not going to be surprised about that. And then he's got a couple of years on A.J. Brown. I mean, he's got the skill set for it. He needs a quarterback. Can you imagine if Aaron Rodgers goes to the New York Jets? I mean, Garrett Wilson from the man is already 9th in red zone targets. I mean,
I'll tell you what, man. This is an interesting stat here. So he was 51st in the NFL at the wide receiver position in average target distance at 10.7. That obviously means that the QB, the 4 QBs that started last year for the Jets couldn't push the ball downfield, and that's where Garrett Wilson does best is when he is those mid-range targets and stuff. So everyone knew that Garrett Wilson was going to be targeted and get the ball. Elijah Moore was a complete non-factor, and he's really going to be that deep threat in that offense. So once they actually have a competent QB that can push the ball downfield, Elijah Moore will be relevant again, but that will that will help Garrett Wilson, because not everyone's going to be focused on him solely in that offense, because they'll be able to push the ball down the field.
It's the Devontae Smith effect.
And one more on Garrett Wilson, the target accuracy, 90th in the league. So I think that kind of explains what we're talking about with the QBs. And the reason we have 90th.
Wow.
And the reason we have him over Jalen Waddle is because Jalen Waddle has a Tyreek Hill, which I think you'll talk about. But Jalen Waddle in his own right, very young, very good player. Simon, you've got Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Waddle, right off the bat, had fewer targets. He had 116, 6.8 per game. And then being the downfield threat that he is, he's not hauling a lot of those in. To put downfield threat in perspective, he was first in the league in both yards per target and yards per reception. So, yes, he's getting less, but he is doing a lot with the less that he's getting. 18.1 yards per reception and 11.7 yards per target. He's also 8th in the league in yards per team pass attempt. So it's not like he's just being outperformed by Tyreek in being out-targeted. He's being extremely efficient. He's with another stud wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, someone we also have in our top 12. Long-term, they will help each other, and as Tyreek ages, we see Jalen Waddle getting more of the work in the Dolphins offense.
So why do we not have Jalen Waddle over Garrett Wilson? I think it's because, again, Tyreek Hill is absolutely a relevant argument for that. And Jalen Waddle he did start to show that he could be a very boom-bust guy pretty consistently throughout the season. And that can hurt you down the line on your fantasy teams when you're expecting him to put up 20 points for you and he only puts up 5 in the playoff game where you need him most. That can really suck. And honestly, it's kind of funny seeing that ultimately we ended up being right again, that Waddle and Tyreek would hurt each other. Tyreek definitely was not going to take the production hit there, or help each other, sorry. And it's funny, though, that you end up looking at his opportunity share last year definitely went down, and Waddle, in a way, was sort of hurt by Tyreek Hill being there in terms of what he could do production-wise. He made up for it in the efficiency, but that results, again, in more of a boom-bust week-to-week sort of situation.
All right, don't take 25 minutes here, but you've got the Sun God. It's your turn now.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown still has... It's funny to say this after... What are you laughing at?
It's just going to be 5 straight minutes of you talking because you...
No, it's not.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk that much because I want to hear what you guys have to say about Jameson Williams and the whole offensive situation there.
Gosh.
But we don't have ARSB over Waddle over Garrett Wilson because of... Jameson Williams is a big reason for this. We've been big, known... not haters of Jameson Williams, but we don't like his current dynasty value, and we've been saying that you should sell him because he's going in the 5th round of dynasty startups.
That's horrible analysis.
Okay, thanks, man. Subpar. So while we know what ARSB is as a player and as a receiver, he's really sort of defied all odds in terms of draft capital and situation, and he's been the alpha wide receiver there. They did draft Jameson Williams, 11th overall last year?
Correct.
The second wide receiver off the board.
Third,
in
right?
the class, right?
It was
did Garrett Wilson go over
London
him?
and Garrett Wilson and then JMO.
JMO after Wilson. Okay, cool. Third wide receiver in a loaded wide receiver class. It's very obvious that they intend to heavily invest in Jameson Williams. They did not expect him to come back last year after that late season ACL tear in 2021 in college. So I want to know what you guys think about that. How will that help or hurt Jameson Williams? Do you think it'll be another wide receiver duo?
He was the fourth. It was
fourth.
London, Wilson, Olave, and then
James really?
All went with the 5 picks. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
cool.
anyways, Amon-Ra, you know what? Oh man, I hate talking about the Lions. There's a lot of factors going into play here. They were lucky to retain their offensive coordinator, honestly, because he's the one driving that ship. And then Jared Goff looks like he can support an Amon-Ra St. Brown. We saw him do it in LA too. So that's not really a question. And for me, I'm more willing to bet on Amon-Ra St. Brown than I am with Jameson Williams. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has proven himself to be an elite producing fantasy wide receiver at this point. I think we saw it over 2 seasons. I think we saw it over a multiple game stretch, like 7, 8, 9 games. And I think as you just watch that offense, you can tell that he's a focal point in the offense. They're going to continue to include him. And I think he's elite in every aspect. So with that being said, I mean, he's in this tier with these guys like the Garrett Wilsons, the Jalen Waddle, and he kind of has to be. And you can argue that he can be higher or lower. But at the same time, given his age, given the fact that he has a quarterback that's competent, given that he's continued to produce at this level, even after we said that he might not, it would not be good for us to go out and say that Amon-Ra St. Brown is not at this level, because he clearly is. So I don't know what you have to add to that.
This is like, speaking on Amon-Ra, this is a Jaxon Smith-Njigba enigma.
That was
section,
the worst
I guess.
pun.
No, it was really good. So
I'm going to look at the analytics, and a bunch of people's going to drop right there.
Yeah. Amon-Ra, he was third in the league in target rate, 32.3% of his routes he was being targeted. He ran a 4.66, so he wasn't athletic. I mean, he wasn't fast. Not being fast does not mean you're athletic. I'll get to that right here. He was 4th in the league in yards after the catch. 4th. He ran a 4.66, and he was still 4th in the league in the yards after catch. And so that's just like, why are we worrying about players who aren't fast? Just because you can't run a 4.3 does not mean you can't be efficient after the catch, and he gets the targets and he produces.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that really makes me think that Amon-Ra is just a super safe asset to have, and that you really shouldn't be concerned with Jameson Williams coming in, because Amon-Ra is getting a lot of the mid-range targets. He only had 11 yards per reception, and his average depth of target was 97th in the NFL at 6.2. I think that even demonstrates ultimately Jared Goff's limitations as a QB. And while they plan to push the ball downfield with Jameson Williams, I would assume a little bit more, that's probably not what they're going to be consistently doing.
Yep.
Like every single game. And if they do want to be an explosive offense, they could even draft Bijan too. Bijan's being mocked to the Lions, and that's just another weapon who's going to take away more red zone opportunities to score touchdowns. I don't think Amon-Ra's hurt by that because of his target share.
Moving on to Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill is the guy that we have at 8 in our rankings, above Chris Olave, above Stephon, above JS, and so why? I'm just gonna sit tight for a second. Tyreek Hill, 3rd in targets, 2nd in target share, number 1 in target rate, 2nd in air yards, 4th in air yard share, 1st in deep targets, 2nd in receptions, 2nd in receiving yards, 5th in yards after catch, 4th in unrealized air yards, 4th in total touchdowns, 3rd in fantasy points per game, 1st in yards per route run, 6th in yards per target, 1st in yards per team pass attempt, and 1st in fantasy points per route run. I'm almost not even willing to. The only argument that you could have about this is, Tyreek Hill's 29. Does it look like Tyreek averaged 20 points per game? Did it look like he was slowing down next year?
No.
Next, Chris Olave.
Oh, is it Olave next? Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing here. Olave's young, talented wide receiver on a rookie contract. We saw what he did at the beginning of last year. He came into the NFL and was immediately burning people. Super productive off the bat, had a real case for Rookie of the Year. He's 23 years old. He averaged how many points per game? 13.2 as a rookie. He was one of the more productive rookie wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, there's really no questions there. It's just about
question.
He's probably going to get some help at receiver too.
Yeah,
And his quarterback situation's not going to get worse.
Oh, and does
He's
getting
QB
help at
proof.
receiver, does that hurt someone?
Not when he's the
No.
only receiver on the team.
I mean, they have Taysom Hill.
That's true. They do.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Don't say Rashid Shaheed. Like,
He's
it's-
actually, never mind.
Oh, at least Nathan's not saying Michael Thomas, though.
You keep acting like he's some relevant.
He had 2.8 yards per route run last year.
No.
I believe so.
I'll pay it first for him.
Yeah, keep talking. I'll check it. I'll check on that.
We should let's go to Stephon Diggs, Nathan. There's not going to be a lot to say about Stephon Diggs. Everybody knows who he is, and
Yeah, it's Stephon Diggs. If you're scared of his age, again, 29 years old. Oh boy, tied to Josh Allen for the next 5 years. Yes, you can look that up. It's true. Gabriel Davis clearly is not going to overtake Stephon Diggs as the alpha wide receiver there. Simon, Gabe Davis, wide receiver 1. Stephon Diggs is the one that is the target dominator. He will continue to get the targets. Josh Allen will continue to throw him the ball. To me, this just isn't a question. If you have anyone in your league that is shorting Stephon Diggs because of his age and they want to get a 23 first out of him, Simon literally just made a deal where all he gave up. Don't say the two other guys that are completely irrelevant. He
Yes.
gave up the 110 and got Stephon Diggs. If you can give up a late 23 first and get Stephon Diggs, that is like one of the biggest smashes of this offseason.
yep.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill win you Dynasty and Fantasy championships.
Diggs has been a wide receiver 1 in 5 of the last 6 years. So
Yeah.
But he's not that good though. He's just going to fall off, and I think he's worth a late first.
yeah, him
right?
and Rashid Shaheed both have 2.8 yards per route run. So I just want to point that out.
All right, at number 11 is going to be Jaxon Smith-Njigba. This is risky.
This is bold.
This is risky because we're recording this the day of we are leaving from here to go to the combine, so we'll let you know how it goes. But we're pumped. We're leaving from here to go watch JSN work out, and we're going to watch all these receivers in this class. And this is bold because we're pre-combine at this very moment for at least until the next couple hours. So we haven't even seen their combine results yet. Obviously, the draft capital is going to be the most important thing here. So we're calling our shot. We said that Jaxon Smith-Njigba is the best wide receiver in this class. We like him. He is just now 21 years old. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. I mean, the size is not an issue. Obviously, you saw him at Ohio State 2 seasons ago, not last season, play with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, 2 receivers that we've already named in these rankings in the top 12 of Dynasty. He played with both of those in college and still outproduced them. I mean, people at first
Don't overthink it.
At first it was, look at what JSN did with Garrett Wilson and Olave. That's impressive. And then now it's, JSN only did that because of Garrett Wilson and Olave.
I feel like people are applying the wide receiver duo logic where they help each other with 3 wide receivers in the same offense. At that point, you're taking away from each other in terms of production. JSN took away from Olave and Garrett Wilson. He did.
And there's concerns about his athleticism. We just talked about a guy that didn't run a 4.3, didn't run a 4.4, and he still is getting a ton of targets. He has a ton of yards after catch because he's just a good receiver, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, JSN is a better Amon-Ra St. Brown. He just is, guys. He's a way better prospect. He had way more college production at a way better school. I mean, at the time, USC wasn't very good. But, I mean, think about it. There aren't a lot of red flags with JSN outside of the fact that he didn't play last year. But again, he's still only 21 years old. And you think he doesn't remember how to play football? You don't think he's been working out?
I could see us getting a lot of crap for this because he's not going to run the 40. And his stock is probably going to drop even more because people are going to get really excited about the fast receivers that show out in the 40 today.
Bye.
And I mean QJ
because
Addison.
Tyquan Thornton's better than Drake London.
I could see after the combine today the Dynasty community being so low on JSN that he becomes a wide receiver 3.
Bye. I love JSN. This is bold. It's risky. Let us know what you think if QJ or Addison should be up here instead, but we like JSN. And then wrapping up, we got Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, number 1 in the last 2 years in fantasy points per game out of wide receivers. Even this last year, 22.4 fantasy points per game. Cooper Kupp has been in the league 1 year longer than DJ Moore.
Wow.
1 year. So he doesn't.
Great stat.
Yes, he stayed in college for 4 years. He was used a lot there. But I'm not really worried. He did not look like he was slowing down at all last year. Still led all wide receivers in points per game.
Yeah, 22.4 points per game. That's more than Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Again, let us know what you think. Let us know where you agree, disagree. We don't claim to know everything. We absolutely don't. But it is hilarious when people get in our comments and they're like, "Oh, your analysis stinks." And I'm like, "Yeah, you don't even have a profile."
Subpar.
Oh, shoot. So
please like our subpar analysis.
Yes, make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got Dynasty content coming out every single week, and we're trying to make it the best Dynasty content, the most up-to-date Dynasty content, the most analytical Dynasty content that we can. And for that reason, you should subscribe. It's a free and easy way to support our channel. We really, really appreciate it. It helps us out a ton. And make sure you go to our locals page. It's where these full rankings, we have, I think, 60 of these wide receivers ranked, and so you can get access to our full rankings, including where guys like Addison and Josh Downs are going, so make sure you head over there to get full access to that as well. As always, we appreciate each and every one of you listening and joining us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.